So I just finished the Clone Wars Season 7, Episode 12, Victory and Death. And I'm not sure what to say. I guess I'll start off with this. It was directed by, was it Nathaniel Villanueva? And written by Dave Filoni. There was really great music. The sweeping score, the sound design, it was all, in top form. Kiner was doing great work. David Accord and Matt Wood, the supervising sound directors, directed everybody beneath them as well to do, really great work with the sound. It was all very impactful. But the thing that is sticking with me is that last shot. It's kind of like the encapsulation of the Clone Wars. We have, set in the snow, a clone trooper helmet painted in the visage of Ahsoka, an homage to Ahsoka, and in the T-visor of it, walking away with her lightsaber, this relic of the past, is Darth Vader. And the music at that point was especially poignant, but the thing that's sticking with me the most right now is I'm wondering, what was it all for? The end of the episode felt like it conveyed this overall feeling of futility and uselessness. And I think that's a good thing, because as I thought about that, and I just finished a couple minutes ago, it made me think about the futility and uselessness of the Clone Wars within the Star Wars universe. Outside of the Star Wars universe, it was a great way to continue telling Star Wars stories, and some of the best Star Wars has come out of Clone Wars, and I'm very happy that it's here. But on a secondary level, maybe I'm even happier that it's here, because not only was it entertaining, but it also has points where it's poignant and it has an interesting message. And I'm wondering what the reception of this will be from people, aside from the fact that it was so cool. Will anyone else, or how many other people will feel this sense of futility and hopelessness after finishing this? Because while there is still a glimmer of hope, of course, within the Star Wars universe, you got Luke and Leia, and the ultimate redemption that their efforts will bring. Nobody knows that just yet. Vader thinks that he's, recovered a relic from his lost Padawan, and he thinks that, just like the rest of the Jedi, she died, and who knows what that will do to influence him and his hate and his, journey on the dark side. And it may reinforce it, or it may give him remorse, and maybe that remorse will turn into, negativity that he can use to fuel the dark side within him. But ultimately, it feels very melancholy of an ending, and I guess it should be, because it is the ending to a war story. It is an ending to a story where the bad guys win, and unfortunately it's an ending to a story where the bad guys and the good guys were both tools and pawns, people being manipulated by one overarching villain, one overarching evil. And that's why the Clone Wars is so tragic, and that's what's so sad about it in general. And I guess over the years watching it, I was excited by the fact that it was new Star Wars, that we were seeing new things, that I got a chance to see, Anakin and Obi-Wan being brave and heroic, and I got introduced to this new character, Ahsoka, and it was interesting to see how she impacted things. And originally when Ahsoka came about, people were wondering if she would have to die, and how she would die. Would Anakin be the one to, put a lightsaber through her, or whatever? And I guess getting swept up in all of that excitement over the new possibilities helped me, at least, I won't speak for anyone else, to forget about the fact that this is a story of a inappropriate, illegal, useless war that was, again, in the words of Matthew Stover from the Revenge of the Sith novelization was all part of a Jedi trap. This whole thing, this whole war, was a racket designed by an individual in power to bring about some change. And if you want to look at it this way, the CIS, the independent systems, the Confederacy of Independent Systems, tell me that's not loaded, was willing to take actions that would lead to war, because obviously they thought they would be victorious in the war and that they would reap the benefits from it afterwards. And they were all being manipulated by Sidious. And Sidious was weakening the Republic and causing them to be cold and distant and, basically allow problems to fester, so that there would be a need for a grand army of the Republic, a need to call upon the Jedi to fight in this war, to cause them to lose focus of their principles and lose focus of the living force and the will of the Force to do this great evil. Now, getting back into specifics of the episode, I found it interesting that there were two prominent pieces of action, I guess you could say, that stick out in my mind as staying true to the idea of the Jedi, being true to who they are. And both of those are with Ahsoka because she's our, Force user here. Now, those two items or ideas are her trying to catch Maul as he's leaving, and also her trying to defend herself from the clones. And I'll go with Maul first because I asked at the end of my last analysis what, I guess, how was it moral for Ahsoka to let Maul go as a diversion? And he had a line, which honestly, I didn't like the line. Nothing against Sam Witwer's performance. I didn't like the writing of it. I didn't like the context of it. The way it was presented in the episode just felt a little bit off. Maul is running through the, hangar bay or whatever it's called, and Ahsoka's chasing after him, and he says something to the effect of, "This is the chaos you wanted or desired." And he throws some stuff at her and tries to attack her, pushes her off with the Force, and she's chasing him. He gets into the ship, and he's trying to get away. And as he's trying to escape, she ends up holding on to his ship for a long time. He's got full thrusters going. This is like, what's it, the Force Unleashed style or level of power, I would say, almost. She's holding a ship which has, powerful sublight thrusters, in place in this falling ship that they're in. And it seems like she's able to keep drawing power from the Force in order to hold him back. And it is interesting to me, was her intention always to capture him, to recapture him, and to stop him from getting loose, and she was just using him as a diversion? Because I don't know, when you're in a position where you have to survive, it makes sense to be able to do things like kill somebody who's trying to kill you. Now, Ahsoka was trying not to kill the clone troopers at all. In letting Maul go to do what he did, he ended up killing a bunch of clone troopers. And he was kind of doing it in self-defense too, because they were just attacking him. And gosh, it's, I don't know, it's still a question I'm going to puzzle over, and it's something I need to think about more, but I just find it interesting that she was trying to capture him. I thought to myself, why not just let the guy go? You've already let him go now. But maybe in the moment, as he's actually trying to escape, that's the point at which she would want to stop him from going out and causing any further damage. And maybe she did the calculus in her mind, hey, if these guys are trying to kill him and he kills them in self-defense, I can't really do anything about that because, every being has a right to defend their life. It's kind of like the humorous idea of a criminal. Well, why did you run? Well, why you were chasing me? Of course I'm going to run. Too, try to get away from you. I'm not going to lay down and surrender and let myself be captured. I want to be free, even if I did these wrong things. But anyway, so that's something that kind of stuck in my mind. That was, where was Ahsoka morally with that? And if she was trying to capture Maul so he couldn't get out into the broader universe and cause more damage to non-combatants and things like that, that would make sense. Versus if he's on a ship full of trained warriors and veterans, and he's gonna create a diversion, and he may kill some, but who knows how many, and they're trying to kill him, so it kind of evens things out, and it's okay. I guess I can roll with that for now, but it's still something I want to examine at a later date. And then the next thing was how she stressed to Rex that she was going to not kill these clone troopers, or preserve the lives of as many of them as she possibly could. And I really appreciated that, and it felt very in keeping with who she is as a person, and the morals of a Jedi or a Force user. And it was interesting to me that she was able to really find that balance, and I think she did, because she avoided the death of as many of these men as she could while fighting for her survival. And I guess that's kind of the sweet spot, isn't it? If you can assert your if you can defend yourself by not killing people, or pushing through a situation where you're not causing permanent damage, and there can be a chance for reconciliation and healing or whatever. It might be messy and it might be sloppy in the end, but ultimately, if you're gonna end up with a lot less corpses through the situation, isn't that serving the ultimate good, or the greater good? I don't know, but then again, if these clone troopers had survived, they would have gone on to be the first series of stormtroopers, perhaps, who went ahead and killed all these Jedi and stuff. And it's just I don't know. It's really interesting, because it kind of does bring me back to that question of what was it all for. And I don't know. I don't want to get too I don't want to go too far with this. I think it's good to have the question out there. What was it all for? And where does it all lead? And ultimately, fortunately in the Star Wars galaxy, it leads to good, because Ahsoka becomes a huge part of the rebellion. So does so does Rex, and a handful or a couple other clone troopers throughout the way. And the interesting thing is, because it's a narrative, because it's a story, because it was originally intended to be a fairy tale for children, basically a modern day fairy tale, mixed with a space opera, we get that happy ending, and we get that good stuff at the end. And even if this has a bitter ending, and even if it leaves us with hard questions, as people who love Star Wars, as people who enjoy Star Wars, as people who enjoy this quality kind of action and entertainment, whatever, I think it's ultimately like a moral good that we got the Clone Wars. That might sound like a like an extreme statement, but I think going through the Clone Wars, going through this journey, if people can walk away with it just entertained, but I think people can walk away with it with some lessons and with some questions to ask, and I think that's really great. Again, the action was stellar, everything was really interesting, everything was compelling, very dramatic, and I think all of that, I'm kind of ignoring all of that, putting that aside, and just directly going to what questions are brought up by this. And anyway, I'm really happy for those questions, and while they weigh a little heavy, and while I may have sounded very dour and dry in the beginning, in the first more than half of this analysis, ultimately there's hope and there's goodness still left, and you just have to find it and focus on it and bring it out and spread it. And I think that's an important thing. That's definitely not the lesson of this episode. That's the lesson of Star Wars overall, and it's a lesson that I will always cherish, and something I'm going to carry forward with me. But I don't really have much else to say. I find it interesting how this kind of conflicts with some canon stuff, because I thought everything happened in the Ahsoka book on Mandalore, but whatever. I'm willing to let that go. I find it interesting why they deviated like this. They didn't have to leave Mandalore in order for all of this stuff to have happened, unless they definitely wanted things to happen on that ship. But I still think you could have had Vader arriving on Mandalore at the end, and having the same sort of thing happen. So that's kind of interesting, and a more nerdy point to bring up. But anyway, I really like this so much. I'm happy that this was the conclusion of Clone Wars Season 7, although I will once again stress that it's too bad that there wasn't more of this epic level of action, or this high-stakes stuff in Season 7. Both of the Bad Batch arc and everything with the Martez sisters. I feel like maybe we should have had more one-off episodes that brought up different ideas and less these arcs, even though I understand that, especially with this last arc, I don't know what you want to call it, the Order 66 arc or whatever, the way they were put together, the way they were divided out, it's so cinematic, and this could easily be, edited into one movie. I don't know if that was the intention for the others, because Lucas had wanted mini movies, and eventually I think in Season 3 they really started to hit their stride with the Clone Wars and make every episode, or every couple episodes, a series of mini movies throughout all these different arcs. Darkness on Umbara, the Younglings arc, all those are like little Star Wars movies. Even though each episode before then had been kind of like its own Star Wars movie, but they elevated things and brought the storytelling to a different level where you could even more say, yeah, this is a little movie here. So, anyway, so a little disappointment with Season 7 overall, just a slight disappointment, but overall it's just so pleasing, and it's so good, and I think it's going to stand up throughout time as, not time immemorial, but in years, in the context of Star Wars, it's going to stand up as a really great addition and a really great way to end cap the series. Especially, I think this arc is the Siege of Mandalore arc is gonna overshadow everything else. Which isn't saying too much, I guess. But I'm gonna go ahead and get out of here. I don't know what else to say except don't start any wars, guys. War's bad. Don't do it. Anyway, this has been my fully operational analysis of Star Wars The Clone Wars Season 7, Episode 12, which is called Victory and Death. And I guess maybe it's victory for the Sith and death for the Republic, is what that is. I was puzzling over what exactly the title meant, but maybe that's what it was. I don't know. Anyway, or maybe it's the intrinsic relationship between victory and death in a war and in combat. I don't know. Heavy stuff, though, a little bit. But anyway, it's the end of my analysis. Look forward to more Star Wars analysis coming from me. I have ideas for stuff I want to do. I might take a break. I have some real life issues I got to take care of, but might take a little time off and then come back with a fairly steady stream of some Star Wars content for you to enjoy and for me to enjoy making. So that's all I have to say for now. This is MJ signing off, and I have to say that in balance lies power to hear the dark and walk in light. And remember to, be good to people. Send out those good vibes in the Force, and hopefully they'll come back to you.